I'm a little irritated. I tried to record this last night so I could get it to you guys yesterday, so I'm a little behind on my videos. Ugh. But I had to build something for my parents, so yeah. I had to build something with my parents, actually. But this is part 2 of what if deku was Aether Charged. And I do not own Dauntless, I do not own My Hero, I do not own anything in this world that I'm going to be referencing. So, if you guys do enjoy, please consider hitting that like button. Oh, Praying Mantis. But you guys took a poll like a week or two ago, asking if you wanted the Shroud or the Thrax, and the Thrax won. You guys freaking want me to use a worm and not a crow. Ugh. Why do you guys do this to me? Why did I ask you? I wanted like freaking Shroud. But you guys wanted it by a majority vote. So here we go. We're going to skip a few weeks into the future. It's now the entrance exams, and a purple portal opens, and the alarms at UA don't go off. And everybody knows what this portal means, and they start freaking out because the alarms aren't going off when they're supposed to go off when there's a release of umbral energy or any kind of energy that's over the limit. And so the portal opens, and instead of a behemoth, it's a little girl that walks out. And everybody stops freaking out, looks at the little girl, and starts freaking out again. Because they don't see a little girl, they see a monster. And yes, she is short. Except for one person. One person walks up and says, "Who the hell are you? And how the hell did you do that?" And the little girl looks at her and just gives her death glare and grabs her test and walks to her seat. And it's in the middle of the test, the written test, so she finishes it and she gives it to Mike and says, "You really didn't pull any punches there, did you, Nezu?" And Nezu, who is currently hiding underneath the testing booth, was like, "Nope, no, I didn't." And everybody heard that squeak, and yes, Nezu is a short person. There's a genetic disease called dwarfism that I'm giving Nezu for him to look like a short person. And so when people say they're vertically challenged, they normally mean when they're shorter than the average person, or when they're short so they can't reach anything high. And then there's some people who are super tall, and they're also vertically challenged because they can't get things in short places without squatting completely down and then having to stand all the way back up to just walk around again. So just letting you know that. On a side note, back to the story. So Nezu shows himself, and everybody sees Nezu and is like, "Oh my god, it's the principal of the school." And so she goes, "What behemoths am I fighting?" And he goes, "You are going to have the heroic Thrax." And she goes, "You actually have a Thrax?" And he goes, "Yeah, it took us a long time to find it, and it's starting to breach containment more and more, so we kind of need to kill it." And she goes, "Oh, I'll gladly do that. Male or female?" And he goes, "I don't know. I just know it's big enough to be a heroic." And they go, and she goes, "Ooh, is it supercharged with Aether?" And he goes, "It's always Aether charged." And she goes, "Ooh, okay. I'm going immediately. Screw the timeline. I'm going." And the portal opens up, and she runs immediately over to where she can sense the umbral creatures. And she is right in front of the Thrax, and the Thrax is super territorial. It doesn't like the Shroud or the Rift Stalkers or anybody coming near it, except for other Thrax. So, it lashes out at her, but she immediately dodges it very easily, and since it has a very suppressant collar that suppresses it completely from ever going into the rift, it can't do anything to Izumi. And Izumi's just like, whoa, calm down. And she's seen Thraxes before. She's also seen Riftstalker and Shrouds before. But every time she sees a Thrax, it's a normal Thrax. It's never continuously aether charged. And she's read books and seen it happen, but the birth of behemoths. And she's been around umbral behemoths so much that she smells like umbral behemoths to umbral behemoths and people. She has this, it's basically like the stench of a wet dog that never goes away. That's literally what she smells like, umbral behemoths. It's a stench that will never go away. And everybody is like, what? So Nezu's like, hurry up, the test is gonna happen early because I think there may be an incident. And he's like, time pause, everybody flip your tests over, go to the practical exam because you need to finish that first before something happens, and I feel like something bad's gonna happen. And they'll look at him and he goes, go or you're all expelled and you're not getting into UA. And they run, and because they don't know who he is, and he has so much authority in his voice that's like, fine. And they just run off. They get to the practical exam. 4 people at a time. It's Kirishima, Bakugo, Mina, and who else? Who else? Who else? Who else? No. Ooh. Poltergeist girl. Yeah. Poltergeist girl. I don't remember her name. I really need to look at what her name is. So, they run into the testing area, and Bakugo, she brings out a pair of chain blades. Kirishima brings out a hammer. Poltergeist girl, repeaters. And Mina, you might not like what I'm about to do, but strikers. And you'll understand why. Bakugo has a pair of radiant chain blades, and she has a specific kind of radiant chain blades. She has Vermi radiant chain blades, which Vermi is basically a light beetle from Dauntless. I don't know his full name. I can't say his full name, so the entire community kind of nicknamed him Vermi. And it's close to Vermivorous from Borderlands 2. So, the entire community kind of nicknamed it Vermi. Everybody has nicknames around its name. I call it Vermi. So, she starts swinging the chain blades like a master. And every time these chain blades phase through the behemoth and do internal damage, and every once in a while they explode with light, harming the behemoth massively. The hammer hits the behemoth. Strikers actually hit the behemoth. And the repeaters leave bullet holes. The chain blades and the axe are the only ones that phase through and leave internal damage, not external damage. So that's why their hides are normally intact with axes and chain blades, but not the other one. Well, hammers, yeah, but not the other ones. And strikers, because blunt damage. But, so, she's swinging them like a master. She's dealing a lot of damage. And these behemoths have been weakened to a point to where they know how much damage each person is doing to the behemoth on a percent basis. And after like 5 minutes, all these students are done with their practical exam, and they hear a giant boom out of nowhere. They're all resting because they're exhausted. They just did a massive test that they tried to finish as fast as possible. They hear a massive boom, but nothing explodes. And the entire ground shakes like there's just a massive explosion, but nobody sees any explosion. Nezu's looking through all the cameras, trying to find where this explosion came from. And then somebody shoots out of the rift in a cushioned area and has an egg in front of them. And something comes barreling out of the rift at them, and she barely rolls out of the way. And he tells All Might, Aizawa, Midnight, and Ectoplasm to all get ready. Ectoplasm uses strikers, All Might uses strikers and hammers. Well, he has the ability to use all weapons, but he prefers strikers and hammers. Midnight uses war pikes, and Aizawa uses chain blades. Scarf chain blades, duh. But they're all getting ready. They all have radiant weapons on. And Ectoplasm has umbral weapons. The only reason why Ectoplasm has umbral weapons is so he can walk up and knock Izumi out so she doesn't get blinded by the radiant weapons. Because he's there to get in, make a clone so it can distract the behemoth and get her out if something bad happens. They see that she puts the egg down and the thing is still attacking her, not the egg. And they see the creature is enraged, not ether charged anymore, which is completely different. When they're enraged, they gain attack and attack speed. When they're ether charged, they have a special move set, which is different. The Rift Stalker goes into the rift and teleports all hunters to a specific area and starts shooting rift blasts at them and starts sending clones at people. Vermi makes a bubble, a shield bubble, and sends a light orbs that explode when on contact. And if you destroy the light bubble, you can actually attack him and stun him for a chance to deal massive damage. But let's get back in topic. So Aether Charge and Rage are different. And they see that this creature is now attacking super fast and is hitting the ground and objects so hard that it's evaporating some buildings. And yes, everybody's in different cities and towns or in different terrains. And she goes into the rift and then comes out with something new. She originally had 2 pistols, but she can't use those 2 pistols in fear of hurting the egg. And when behemoths are being born, they have a very high sensitivity to the opposite element, which I'm going to put that in. Skarns have a high weakness to shock instead of a low weakness to shock in their adult forms. So she puts the radiant weapons away when she knows that, oh, these are the most damaging weapons I have against umbral behemoths. But that egg needs to be protected. So she gets her Blaze Hellion Hammer out. And she starts swinging it like a master. And everybody's like, what the hell? I thought repeaters were her main. And they go, and All Might goes, no. I thought Sword was her main. And Nezu goes, no, I thought friggin' Striker. Wait, what? And he looks at her file and he says her Aether ability is called Weapon Masteries. And he's looking through at what it says that she can do, because they can measure and identify what Aether abilities are. And it says that she has the potential to master any weapon. She just needs field experience with them. And the best field experience that she gets is from hunting behemoths. And he's known that she's been hunting behemoths alone for a long time. So she has so much experience hunting behemoths that she's pretty much a master of any weapon. She's using the hammer flawlessly. She's charging. The hammer is also a shotgun. She's charging the hits with the shells. She's hitting at perfect times. And she's doing the Aether Slam, which can recharge the shotgun shells from absorbing the Aether energy from the behemoth. So yeah. So she's hitting it over and over and over and over and slamming. And they see these Aether geysers coming up from beneath the behemoth every time she slams on the ground, which is giving her more power to slam with. And each time she's just doing more and more, and she's getting faster and faster, because she's been hit quite a few times. And she's bloodied and beaten. But every time that she gets hit now, and she hits the behemoth, she gets some of the Aether energy, which heals her. So all the scratches and wounds are healed immediately, but she still is in pain because it's not cold-blooded, iceborne, toughness, rage. I think it's rage. Yeah, rage and frenzy. And overpowered. Overpowered is the skill on the Hellion Hammer, which it does more damage to stunned behemoths. So every time she hits the behemoth, she always aims for the heads. So she slams it in the left of the head, right of the head. She starts spinning in circles, slamming it over and over. Because each time the hammer hits a behemoth, it uses all of its Aether energy and slams it into the behemoth, and then goes basically into the rift because of her. So it hits the behemoth and then disappears. Hits the behemoth and disappears. So it looks like it's going through the behemoth, because she has perfect control over her rift abilities now. So here's where it's gonna get really fun. After a while, the creature's just like, I can't take any more of this, and flops on the ground, stunned, like literally almost knocked out, barely awake. So she pulls out one of her repeaters, sticks it up the behemoth's mouth, and starts letting loose an entire magazine of it. And she sees that the head's almost about to blow out, so she puts her repeater into the rift again and takes one of her other blades, yes, her sword, and shoves it up the brain of the creature so it doesn't hurt the egg, because even being around radiant energy is dangerous for young behemoths. Well, young umbral behemoths in this what if. And she walks over to the egg and she sees that it's starting to crack. So she's like, oh crap, I have to hide the body. So she just picks up the egg and goes into the rift, because she knows that the rift is the only way for a egg to be birthed and for the egg to hatch and properly set up the creature to survive. So she goes into the rift and she starts to just watch the egg. And there's no more creatures around, because UA has a sensor in the rift and outside the rift, because they kind of used a rift stalker to put one in the rift and outside the rift. Yeah. And her Rift Stalker buddy is currently in the rift, just waiting for her to say that's fine. And I'll be right back. I need to go look at your comments for the Rift Stalker's name. Hold on. So I had a few of them, and I like this one the most. Dark Rose. I love these ideas. Misty, Dark Rose. Yeah, I'm thinking about Doomslayer. No, Lazy, you're not first, by the way. Jacqueline. Jacqueline. Nah, Dark Rose. Just Rose for short, yeah. I like that one. So, and so she says, Rose, go outside the rift. There's some food, and so Rose goes outside the rift, and she starts eating the Thrax that is currently dead on the ground. And Nezu sees that this Rift Stalker jumped out of the rift, and the alarms aren't going off, so he's like, okay, that must be her friend, or pet, or companion, whatever he wants to call it. And so this Thrax comes out of the egg, and Izumi's currently looking at the Thrax, and the Thrax is looking around trying to find its parent, because it can identify its parent by just the first Thrax it sees. And it sees Izumi. So it's like, oh, friendly. Because it's not attacking it. And Izumi opens up a rift portal just big enough for it to go out of the rift. And it hops out of the rift because it must be brought up in the rift. So it hops out of the rift and it sees its parent dead. And it has no emotion. Then Izumi walks out of the rift and starts paying attention to its Thrax buddy. And she doesn't know the gender of the Thrax yet. And I'll tell you the gender of the Thrax in the next part, after you guys give me male and female names for the Thrax. I need male and female names, because I don't know if I'm going to make this male or female. Most likely going to make it female. So just give me male and female names. So, she looks at her Thrax buddy and is petting it and giving it attention. And the Thrax sees that its parent is dead on the ground, and Izumi is feeling bad for it. So it starts being like, okay, not a threat. Apparently that was a threat. And so Izumi pulls out a piece of behemoth that she's been saving for herself. And all of a sudden, a few more Rift Stalkers show up. And she's like, crap. And the alarms start blaring because Rift Stalkers showed up out of nowhere. And they start attacking the Thrax body. And she's like, crap. So she runs over to the Thrax and uses her sword to cut off a few chunks and jumps into the rift. And the Thrax that she just hatched jumps in with her, and she jumps out at her place. And Rose followed her because she cut off the section that Rose was currently eating, which is massive. She cut off from the neck area, which is like a 2 foot away from the head, all the way down to the middle section. And she picked it up and went into the rift with it. So she is strong. And she walked over to where she's supposed to be for her room and walked in. And there's a few bite marks taken out of this because of Rose. And she... the kitty cat in my yard. So... there's a few bite marks taken out of it because of Rose. And now that little Thrax buddy's there, she cuts off a little section for the Thrax to eat, because the Thrax still needs to eat food and have Aether to fuel it. kitty cat. It's freaking funny. But this Thrax needs something to eat, so she feeds it. It sees, oh, this one is nice. This creature that I don't know what the species of is nice. I don't want to hurt this creature. Completely. So it completely trusts Izumi now. And this is where it's going to get very, very, very weird. The Thrax crawls up in between Izumi's chest parts and starts winding around her neck, because it's just barely long enough to do that. It winds around her neck like a snake. It pulls a snake and completely winds around her. So, if you don't mind, make it snake names or S-themed names. So it's just cliched. Because I think that would be funny. But back to the story. So we skip a week after the tests are done. Izumi passed. She's been told that her room is the one that she currently has the Thrax and the Riftstalker in. And she says, thank you. When's the first field trip? Because I don't need classes, I need field trip. Because you're probably just going to teach me how to use the weapon I already know how to use. And they go, the first field trip is in a week. So we skip another week. And so she shows up and she has the Thrax, which is a little bit bigger. It's long enough to reach from her feet to her head, which she's currently 4 feet tall. Well, 4 feet and some odd inches tall. So she is short. She's 4 feet and 5 inches. I don't know how, I do know how many centimeters. I could search it up, but I'm not going to, because it's 2.45 centimeters per inch. I'm not going to even attempt to do that math right this second. So, Izumi is walking to the bus, and she currently has a Thrax on her. So, she walks over to the front seat right next to where Aizawa sits, and she sits down, and the Thrax starts climbing all around her, because she's slowly teaching it to not move while she's walking, or moving at all, if it's on her. And since it's going to get massive very quickly, and it's only been 2 weeks and it's already massive, she's basically teaching it manners in the presence of other people. So, it knows not to show its head, just show its body when it's in front of other people that's not Izumi. But sometimes it messes that up, and all the kids in 1A, because they're in dorms currently, all the kids in 1A know to not yell behemoth when the Thrax shows up, or the Riftstalker, because the Riftstalker and Thrax are, well, part of Izumi's crew, and Izumi is very paranoid about people trying to kill her friends. And the only one who doesn't yell or scream when a behemoth shows up but wants to fight the behemoth is Bakugo, because she is headstrong. And she wants to have a challenge. So she's currently, every time she sees Rose, she's like, spar with me. And Rose just looks at her and then hops in the rift to just stay away from Bakugo. And Bakugo's like, dang it. So we skip like 5, 10, 20 minutes, and they're currently going out into the middle of a desert-ish area, and they hopped on a plane. And, well, actually not a plane, a blimp. More like, yeah, a blimp. If anybody knows what the airship is for Ramsgate, you literally hop off, jump out of the airship. They're not going to do that with children. So They go and hunt a non-heroic behemoth, a just normal behemoth that they didn't know was on the cusp of heroic evolution to make itself even stronger. And once Izumi got within range of the behemoth, she's like, "There's a heroic down there." And Aizawa goes, "None, not on this floating island." And everybody's like, "Wait, we're actually going to a floating island?" And it's, "Yeah. There's no behemoth on this floating island." And she goes, "There's a heroic behemoth on this floating island. If there's supposed to be no heroic behemoth, you're taking us to the wrong island then." And he goes, "There's supposed to be a heroic fire behemoth. No heroic fire behemoth on this island. It's supposed to just be the home of fire behemoth." And she goes, "Well, this is the home of a fire behemoth, but it's heroic." And he goes, "Oh, well, shoot. Turn the ship around." And all of a sudden, the blimp goes boom. And Izumi uses the rift to pull everybody inside and drop them off safely at the island. So they are all disorientated, and the person who fell closest to the behemoth was Bakugo. And if anybody knows and you may be very weirded out by this, a Hellion is, you'll know what I'm going to have them fight. And there's fire, there's blaze energy all around them. And Bakugo landed in a magma field of it. And she has her cells in her weapons currently, which cells and weapons give people boosts. And her weapons allow her to be fireproof. And she has her fire armor, which reduces the damage from any fire behemoth. And she currently has all of her gear on. But what they didn't expect was a turf war between two behemoths. There's a heroic Embermane and a freshly killed heroic Hellion. And Bakugo landed in a pool of Hellion blood, which is as hot as magma. To be completely honest with you, I think it's as hot as magma. I don't know, but it's as hot as magma. I'm just saying it is. And it eats through armor. One drop of this on your skin will absorb it and feel like you're burning from the inside out. And she landed in a pool of this. And Izumi saw this and is like, "Oh, crap. That's not good." And she gets friggin' elbow deep in it with her hands. The rest of her body's not in a pool of it, just her arms and her face. And her hair was dark blonde, very dirty, dirty blonde. And now she lifts her head out of it. Her hair is bleach blonde, very white blonde. And Izumi saw this and goes, "I know how to bleach my hair now." And starts to chuckle to herself. And rifts over to Bakugo, grabs her by the collar and yanks her out of the pool, but sees that her arms are not safe from the effects of the pool. And so Bakugo's body tries to go into shutdown, but Izumi uses one of her lantern abilities, and she has multiple lanterns on her. And her family is known to help make lanterns with abilities to help the hunting of behemoths. She activates one of her lanterns. She has two of them. And one lantern can revive a downed hunter, which is a critically wounded hunter. And currently, Bakugo is in a critical state from getting so much blood on her. One drop, you're just feeling pain from it. But more than one drop, you are going to hurt like hell. And too much means your body goes into hyperbolic shock, I think. It's where your body's overstimulated with pain. And your body starts to shut down. So her body starts to shut down, and Izumi uses one of her lantern abilities, which starts to heal her mind. So Bakugo starts to feel like her hands are on fire. And Izumi sees that her hands are starting to catch on fire. And she's like, cool. And then she starts to see sparks on her hands. And she's like, okay. What is that? And so after a little bit, Izumi sees that Bakugo is perfectly fine and breathing normally, and Bakugo doesn't feel any heat, anything from the natural area. It's supposed to be a dry heat where everybody's suffering from the heat. But Bakugo doesn't feel any heat at all. And Izumi sees this and goes, oh crap, this may be bad. So she grabs Shoto and she's like, yeah, you're going to hate me for this, but here you go. And plunges Shoto in half. And it's like, I really hope that he's accepted by this, because if he's not, I just killed one of the students, which I can get arrested for, but I can't be arrested because I'm very needed in this society. So hopefully I don't kill him, though. So after like 5 seconds, she pulls Shoto out, and Shoto starts gasping for air, and her lantern is still on. So her Shoto's constantly healing, and she's like, I really wish I didn't have to do this. She goes into the rift, she pulls out a bucket, and she walks over to Bakugo and dips Bakugo's hands in it, and then pours the rest of it on Shoto. And it's Boreas blood. No, not Boreas blood. Panger blood. Panger. And Shoto feels like it hit the right side of him is falling off, frozen, falling off. And Bakugo feels like her hands are falling off. And she finally starts to feel the heat of the surrounding area. And her lantern's still on. So all this is happening, and I was like, what are you doing? You just killed 2 students. She's like, no, I didn't. Same thing that happened to me. But I had more concentrated stuff on me. That's why I can go directly into the rift instead of being able to see into the rift like I normally can. And he goes, what? And she says, don't worry. If everything goes right, the Hellion blood and the Panger blood I just dumped on, and Shoto will give him ice on his right and fire on his left. And everybody hears it and goes, what? And she goes, I don't know enough about either of you. Mitsuki was a family friend that I only saw once, ever. And this pretty blonde one that is currently passed out from pain is a friend that I haven't seen in over how many years now? I'm 18, so I think I made her 18. If I didn't, retcon, she's 18. She's 18. So that would be 15 years? No, not 15. 13 years? So she probably doesn't remember me. I remember her because of her hair and her explosive attitude. But let's get back on topic. They're going to be more powerful. Especially Shoto, because he can hunt both Frost and Blaze behemoths. And she looks at Kirishima and she goes, you have a durability, Aether ability, don't you? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, I'm tempted to give you Skarn blood, but I don't know you well enough to give you precious resources that I'm currently using to forge. So, no. And he goes, dang it. And Mina walks up to her going, my Aether ability is armor erosion. And she goes, yeah. Hold that thought. We're currently going to get attacked by a heroic Embermane, which is coming this way. I gotta bounce. So she jumps into the rift and comes out with a giant axe. And it slams on the ground. And they all go, oh, what is that? And she goes, this is called an axe. And if you guys know how to use it, and she holds it up with one hand. And she points it at everybody and goes, if you know how to use it, grab yourself one. And she opens up a rift. And she puts her hand in and pulls out another one. And pulls out another one. And pulls out another one. And she pulls out 10 of them. And she goes, if you know how to use a frost axe. And she slams the axe on the radiant chain blade. She goes, God damn, that was bright. But if you know how to use a frost axe, come with me. But if you don't, go away. So she throws the frost axe up into the sky, and all of a sudden they hear a giant roar from the other side of the island. And they go, no way, she just hit that. And she goes, 3, 2, 1, boom, right in front of her. A fireball hits. She goes, time to go. And she runs through the fire like there's nothing to it. She hops into a portal, and he has her little Thrax hop off of her there. And she says, stay. And she yells, Rose. And Rose hops out of the portal. And they're running at the same speed because Rose is currently jogging or galloping. And Izumi's sprinting with an axe. And if you guys don't know the I think it's onslaught ability for the axe, you throw it, it lands somewhere you can pick it up, and when you don't have it in your hands, you gain a speed boost. Well, she has the onslaught basic perk active. So she's sprinting at full speed, and she activates her other lantern ability, which gives her a speed boost. And she is sprinting. And the Embermane currently has an axe lodged in its stomach. And it's a massive Embermane. It is a heroic Embermane. It's a peak heroic Embermane, which wants this island for its own pleasure. So she jumps up and she grabs the axe out of the gut of the Embermane, and she starts swinging it like a professional. And Aizawa is now looking at it because he has Aether charged eyes. He has the ability to see the Aether ability and the Aether level in a person. Depending on the Aether level, depends on how good they can use their weapons, which also gives them the ability to hunt bigger and better behemoths, which helps absorb Aether whenever they kill behemoths, because they get at least a little bit of blood on them. And his Aether ability allows him to use chain blades like a level 20 expert in Dauntless. Well, actually level 50, to be more exact. Because level 50 is better than level 20. But he sees her slicing chunks out of it. He sees her slicing its gut up. After a full 20 minutes, Aizawa finally gets a call from Nezu saying, plane on its way, get ready to jump, because we can only get a cargo plane for you guys. And it's going to do a nosedive. And he goes, yes, sir. And he tells everybody, get ready to jump, cargo plane coming. And Izumi hears this and goes, finally! And uses her last bit of onslaught and slices its head off. And the cargo plane was currently flying by and nosediving. And the axe hits the door of the plane and lands perfectly inside the plane. And she goes, score! And she hops into the rift and appears in the plane. She goes, time for a nap. And flops down. And she goes, oh crap, I forgot something. So she opens a portal underneath her, drops into the portal, and she she goes over to Shoto and Bakugo and goes, yeah, you guys can run. Bye. And she drops to a portal again. And she appears there and she goes, now nap time. And flops out in one of the rooms of this massive cargo plane. If you guys have ever seen a private jet, it's 20 times the size of a private jet. This world is 30 million times bigger than Earth. So, it is massive. The atmosphere is gigantic. So, the floating islands can't actually work in this world. And the cargo plane is massive, so it's in a nosedive, so everybody can jump into the specific cargo plane and get into it, and then it goes out of a nosedive, which sucks everybody to the floor. And Izumi's currently passed out in bed. Rose is in the same room. Bakugo's in the same room. Shoto's in a different room. And her little Thrax buddy is currently curled up on her, like a snake. And everybody gets into the cargo plane after basically nosediving into the cargo plane. They have a lot more toughness in this one, so they can survive a 1,000-foot drop. Easy. But even more than that, and bones start to break. So they all get into the cargo plane. They lock themselves down, and the cargo plane starts to flatten out. Maybe a mile above the ground. Instead of 1,000 miles in the air, it's maybe 1 mile into the ground. So they're all like, oh, safe. And they hear snoring like a chainsaw. And they walk over to the room. They open the room. They see Bakugo snoring like a chainsaw and Izumi snoring like a chainsaw. I'm like, oh, no sleep tonight. 10 hours later, they're like, ugh. It took a 1-day trip to get to the island, and it was supposed to be a non-hostile island, but it was a hostile island. Or it was supposed to be a less hostile island than normal, but it was a highly hostile island. So, so we go to, 10 hours later, Izumi finally wakes up, and they're finally touching down. It's like, ding ding, please fasten your seatbelts if you're in a chair, and if you're in bed, please sit back, relax, and let the straps hold you down. And Rose hops into the rift. Thrax just tightly wraps around Izumi's neck. It's like, Izumi's like, I'm trying to breathe. The funny parts are coming, I promise. And after another few minutes, both... apparently my mother's on a funny phone call. After another few minutes, apparently the plane finally touches down and Izumi's straps break off. And she gets up and the plane finally skirts down and she wobbles a little bit and she sees that Bakugo fell off the bed. And in a split second, she catches Bakugo and he bridal style hold. And Bakugo finally wakes up a little because of the jitter of the plane. And Bakugo sees Izumi holding her bridal style. And Bakugo finally sees Izumi's eyes in full HD 4K Ultra HD quality. And she goes red-faced immediately. Oh, excuse me. But she saw her in Ultra or 4D Ultra HD. She went red-faced, and then she saw the scars underneath Izumi's eyes. Because Izumi does have scars under her eyes from the acidic umbral aether and her tears from crying so much. Because she did cry from when her parents died, but now she just keeps on a tough face. And she has basically tear channels running down her eyes from the dripping from her eyes. So, yeah. So, Izumi says, aren't I supposed to be the princess in this story? And Bakugo currently dresses like a male. And she is flat-chested. Sorry, but Bakugo is flat-chested. Izumi, not so much. And that's been a running joke between her and Bakugo, because they've talked on social media, and yes, there's social media in this one, in this world. They've talked on social media, but they don't really talk to each other in real life. And Bakugo immediately goes serious and says, you know you're older than me, right? And she goes, yeah, whatever. I'm just 2 days older than you. She goes, still older than me. The younger one's supposed to be princess, held like a princess. And then she understands what she just said, and she goes, oh crap. And Izumi's like, nah, and drops her like a ton of bricks. And she falls on the floor and slams her head on the ground. She goes, what the hell is that for? And Izumi goes, disrespect. And I just kind of wanted to see you fall on the floor. And Rose hops out of the rift, and Thrax uncoils itself around Izumi's neck. And Thrax starts to hiss at Bakugo, because it doesn't like Bakugo. But Rose likes Bakugo. So Rose goes over to Bakugo, grabs her by the head, picks her up, sets her down on her feet, and lets her go. And then hops back in the rift. And Bakugo's like, could she do that any less violent? And Izumi goes, no! That's how she says she likes you. Just helps you every once in a while. And Rose allows her tail to go through something, and is about to hit Izumi in the head when Izumi ducks. Just barely. And it almost hits Bakugo in between the eyes. And it's supposed to be a stinger shot, because every Wristalker has a stinger at the end of their tail. And it stops an inch before Bakugo. And it curves around and hits Izumi right in the gut. And Izumi's like, damn it! Oh, this hurts. And falls on the ground. And Bakugo's like, that's what you get! And Izumi's like, yeah, whatever. Just help me up. So they get out of the plane and they walk out, and Nezu's currently at the area and says, oh, I'm so glad that they have these cargo planes for emergencies. And Izumi goes, are you glad that they have these cargo planes for emergencies? Really? Really? Are you? And he goes, yeah. And she goes, really? That's why you only have one of them. And Class B is currently having another field trip on a different island. And he goes, well, that's supposed to be a lesser. And we have someone always watching that island. And for you guys, we don't always have someone watching your island. And she goes, well, that was a newly heroic Hellion that you're going to make us fight. And a heroic Embermane that you made me fight. Because him over there is too lazy to fight it. And we were going to stay on the other side of the island, but it was just going to make a patrol back. So I kind of had to distract it while the plane was coming. After 20 minutes, it finally showed up. And Nezu goes, I'm sorry about that. Oh, crap. Yawning. I hate it. But after a while, and after a lot of venting to Bakugo, because Izumi currently was being pulled away from Nezu while she was trying to fight Nezu for having a unnecessarily big cargo plane, because they don't need a cargo plane that giant to rescue 20 kids. And he goes, hey, at least we use part rift for it. And she goes, oh, yeah, part rift. Except for mine room. And he goes, yeah, I know. Rift technology still work in progress. Room that wasn't in the rift was yours to actually make the cargo plane look normal. But go back to your room. Oh, and we lost a room from an attack from a hero just a few hours ago. And we lost one of the rooms in Class 1A. So, Bakukatsuki, I'm sorry, but your room has been destroyed. And Baku's like, where am I going to sleep then? And Izumi jumps on Baku being like, with me. And they fall through the rift. And Bakugo starts to get furious at Izumi for abducting her. And her hands start to light on fire again. Because I'm going to make them be able to go on fire. And she opens her palms and explosions start happening in her hand. And she starts freaking out like, what's going on? And Izumi slaps Bakugo and says, don't worry. It's because you had an accident and you fell in Hellion blood. And she's like, what? And she goes, yeah, you can channel ice and fire on your hands. But if you channel both of them at once, you make explosions. Just like how I can blind Rift Stalkers if I focus enough on the radiant aether that currently pulsing through my veins. And if I use Umbral Aether enough, and I normally use Umbral Aether, I can make this. And she waves her hand and another portal opens. She goes, go through, or I'll kick your butt through. And I'm going to end it there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you guys did, I think it's type Vermi. VRYM. I think. No. VRME. Type Vermi into the comments if you made it this far. And if you guys did, please consider liking the videos, commenting on the videos. And if you guys comment that in the answer column on the Discord, you'll get 500 points to help with a ship ticket, which can change a ship for a current series, or give me a ship for a new series that I'm currently going to post on the courtyard either tomorrow or the next day. And if you guys do make a ship ticket, I'm probably going to put it in a community post on top of the ship ticket to ask if you guys want mine or the fan ship. And I'm only going to put unsmooth or fan ship as the choices. So you guys either choose me out of love or fans out of hate for my ships. Please choose mine. No. Remember, ship tickets are really cool. I suggest you guys save up the money. But remember, you need 3 people to agree with you to get the ship ticket fully go through. I only have that as its requirement because if everybody started getting ship tickets, then I'd be overloaded with ship requests. I don't want to be overloaded with ship requests. So, yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Consider hitting that like button. Remember, type Vermi. VRME. Or VERME. Type Vermi into the comments and into the answer column. You'll get 500 points for the answer column, but in the comments, I'll immediately heart it. So, boy, female name in the comments to name the Thrax, and Vermi in the comments to immediate like from me. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Talk to you guys later. Bye! Oh, if you like my content, subscribe, please. Bye!